look for first and foremost for underlayment compatibility with flooring?
From a manufacturing standpoint, we have to look at compatibility with our product. So like if we're talking about engineered wood, well then we can almost, we can run the gamut on underlayment, almost anything. But you know, we also have to talk about substrate requirements. You know, do we need a 6 mil poly? Is there something that we that you know we're missing with respect to the you know, the substrate? Like, do we need a 6 mil poly? Are we just going for acoustics? Or you know, what is the, you know, end goal for the end user? Yeah, and also like whether or not it actually needs an underlayment. If our products have a built-in underlayment, what can we add underneath that? Are we able to add something underneath that? It doesn't have to be rigid. Is it something? Is it a product that we can only, you know, recommend a certain type of an underlayment with a certain compressive strength, these types of things. So yeah, it's multifaceted for sure.
When thinking about acoustics, what concerns do you have in terms of the products that you come across in the market?
Biggest thing is the product performance statements. That's what we're having a problem with. This is our challenge, is comparing apples to apples. Where, you know, where do we stand in the market? What is the performance standards that are being said by our competitors? You know, it used to be 72. Hey, we need a 72. Well, now we're seeing, hey, we need an 84, right? So I'm worried from a manufacturing standpoint, from a distribution standpoint, that the industry is going to knee-jerk respond by saying, okay, let's publish a standard now that meets the 84. However, we need to get there. But there has to be a greater good at the end of this. There has to be a end goal. What's the end goal? Is it just to produce an underlayment that meets an unrealistic expectation? Or is it to educate the end user on what those real world expectations should be from your underlayment? Yeah, I mean, the unrealistic expectations, I think, is on the end user side of things, where they're believing that, you know, we have to reach a 72 because Strata told us that we have to reach a 72, or, you know, our HOC demands that we meet a, you know, an 84, but they have no concept necessarily that there's no two buildings that are built the same. So how can we bring the education component back into the conversation? How can we make conscious decisions to sell a product under unrealistic expectations? That's sort of where we're at as a manufacturer.
For anybody looking for new floors for renovation project, new builds, or even stratas who are looking to put in regulations or get more knowledge about acoustics and flooring, what type of advice would you give to them?
I mean, first off is do your due diligence. Talk to the people that actually manufacture these products. What are the testing conditions that have been done? Under what conditions? Under what substrate conditions? Under what, you know, what are all of the characteristics of that testing, and how does that relate to the building that I live in? That's what I would be asking as an end user. I would be asking the hard questions. Hey, you know, you guys did this testing on a 6-inch suspended slab with no drop ceiling. My building is a 3-story wood frame construction. Am I going to get an 82? No, you're not. So yeah, my advice is to do your due diligence, do the research, understand how these numbers actually, and you don't have to get forensic. I mean, I'm not asking, you know, homeowners to take a course in acoustics. You know, I don't know that level of forensic, you know, information, but at least know that if a test is done on concrete and you live in a wood frame, you know, construction building, you can't compare apples to apples. It doesn't make sense. So, and also, you know, is the best underlayment the best for you. Like, I go back to that whole best being subjective. It's a subjective word, right? So maybe you don't need like a super 3-in-1 with a 6 mil poly and a, you know, a blah 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 with everything and all the bells and whistles, because maybe, you know, you're in a wood frame construction and you don't need the 6 mil poly. You don't want the 6 mil poly. You know, like, these are the things that you have to do your research as an end user. And unfortunately, if you rely solely on the end user, the end user relying on a dealer, and they happen to walk into a store that's only worried about margins, they're not going to get the information that they need.
The main takeaways, I guess, could be summed up to identify a reliable source of information, know your real world scenario and expectations of how a product should perform for your building, understand what flooring manufacturers look for in terms of compatibility and underlayment products, and ultimately get the right information. Absolutely.
Anything short of that is a liability.